bit about Lag Baomer, and we'll talk a little bit about it. It's not a well-known holiday. It's a minor celebration that we have on the Jewish calendar. It's not from the Torah, of course. It's not one of like Pesach, Shavuos, or Sukkot, like Passover or Sukkot or Shavuos. It is rather a very fascinating historical date on the calendar, which is the following. The Gemara says, the Talmud says that, and anyone who knows on the Jewish calendar, Talmud tells us that these days between Pesach and Shavuos are sad days. Now, they should be happy days. They should be very happy days. They should be days of gladness, of joy, because the Jewish people, we received the Yetzias Mitzrayim, the exodus of Egypt, happened on Passover, of course, and we immediately started to count. There's a mitzvah of Sfiras HaOmer, which is a time period we're in right now, and there is the days in between Pesach and Shavuos, between Passover and Shavuos, is a preparation, and that's the mitzvah of Sfiras HaOmer, of counting the Omer. It's a preparation for us to prepare for Kabbalas HaTorah, to receive the Torah. We find this concept a lot in the Torah. We find this concept a lot in Yiddishkeit and Judaism. And the concept is that we need to do a hachana. We need to prepare ourselves for the mitzvos. The mitzvos that we do, there's a preparation. You see this throughout Judaism. In the daily shachris, the daily morning tefillos prayers, we just go immediately into the Shemona Esrei. The Shemona Esrei is the 19 brachas, the 19 blessings, right? We can't go right into it immediately, right? We're standing. The Rambam, Maimonides famously says, when you're standing, when you're doing the Shemona Esrei, whether a person's in shul or whether he is at home, he's standing before Hashem. He's standing before God. And that's one of the ideas of, we take 3 steps back and we take 3 steps forward, and we're standing before Hashem. Why do we do that? Because it signifies leaving the mundanities of this world and taking 3 steps forward. Now we're standing before Hashem. And the Rambam actually says famously that we're supposed to envision as if we're standing right by the Beis Hamikdash, right there, right where the temple stood. We're right over there, and we're before Hashem. We are before God. So taking the 3 steps back, 3 steps forward, is standing before Hashem. But there's a tremendous amount of prayers that we do, from the Berachas HaShachar, the morning blessings, to Psukkah de Zimra, the paragraphs of praise and thanksgiving to Hashem, right? And then we get to the Birchas Kriya Shema, right? That we have the positive commandment of reciting Shema in the morning and in the evening. And we have, our sages, the Chachamim, instituted brachos, blessings that get us in the zone to be mekabel ol malchus shamayim, to accept the yoke of heaven, of Hashem, to remember Hashem, that Hashem is echad, God is one, and everything comes from Hashem, from the one source. Every single thing in the entire world, in all the universes, in all the worlds, it's all from one source, one creator, Hashem. So again, we see a preparation over and over and over again, till finally we get to the Shemona Esrei, the prayers. And we see this throughout, that there's a preparation that we need to the mitzvah. We can't just roll out of bed and do a mitzvah. We need to prepare ourselves mentally. In the olden days, sometimes in the Gemara, they would actually wait Shah Achas, sometimes Shah means an hour before davening. Chasidei Rishonim, the pious, the saintly individuals, the Gemara says they used to wait to prepare themselves mentally before davening and after davening as well. They were on a high, and they had to get back to this world. So we see preparation is the most important thing. Passover also, the Seder, you're supposed to prepare the Seder. You're not supposed to roll into the Seder. And all the mitzvahs that we do, the preparation, the hachana, getting ourselves ready for it is a very important part of the mitzvah. The Levium, the Kohanim, before they did the service in the temple, the Levium, right? They had a number of years, they had to wait before they could do the 5 years, right? Before they could do the service in the temple. They can't just do it. They need to prepare for it. And even if they know a lot, still they have to prepare for it. So we have the 7 weeks of preparation from Pesach to Shavuos. So they should be happy days. We're about to receive the Torah. And we know that it's very important that not just doing the mitzvah, right? But how we do the mitzvah, the way we do the mitzvah has a tremendous effect. As a matter of fact, the greatest Kabbalist, the Arizal, it is said about him that he says all the tremendous levels that he reached were because he did the mitzvos in a state of jubilation, in a state of joy, with simcha. The way he did the mitzvah, the mitzvah is a lashon, the language of tzavta, of connection. You can create difference spiritually. How we do it, to do it in a state of simcha and joy, to recognize Ashreinu Matzakin, how fortunate we are. Hayom Katzera, the Hamalacha Meruba, right? On the one hand, we find that life is short. We're in this world for a certain amount of time. There's a lot of things, a lot of mitzvos, a lot of spiritual opportunities for us. And that's very important. That's what Rebbe Tarfon teaches us in Pirkei Avos, right? That we have to do our best. Obviously, it's not all or nothing in life, and we're lazy.
Rabbi, your audio is skipping.
So, okay, Hashem is pushing. He wants.
Yeah, I think it's your Wi-Fi.
How about now? Is it better?
Yes, better. Yes.
Okay. Now I could maybe I'm not on Bluetooth. Maybe Bluetooth usually makes it worse.
Who are you talking to?
Can you hear? Can you hear me?
Oh,
hello. Okay.
I can hear you now. I can hear you.
Is the audio good? No, Mr. Harmon is saying the audio is bad.
Yeah, now
It is.
fine.
It keeps going in and out.
Now it's fine, I think.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
I hear him.
Let me know.
I hear him good.
If it's persistent, then I could log off and then log back in. I do apologize.
That's
I know
okay.
I have.
It sounds good now.
It sounds good now. Okay, great. So the preparation is very important. So here we are. Should be happy days. Unfortunately, they're sad days. Now, why are they sad days? They're sad days, even though we're preparing to receive the Torah. They're sad days because the Gemara and the Talmud says very little about this. The Talmud says that Rabbi Akiva, who reached the highest of the high in this world, Rabbi Akiva, the great Tana, the great sage, who came from knowing little to almost nothing in Am Haaretz. He was someone that was very much unlearned, and his wife, the Talmud says very beautifully, Rachel, his wife Rachel, saw in him great potential. She was able to see, and she saw that he's a very special person, and she encouraged him to learn Torah, and he started learning at the age of 40. Now, mind you, in the times of the Mishnah, they started learning Torah extremely young. And by the age of, let's say, and this is not an exaggeration, by the age of 8 to 10 years old, before their bar mitzvah, they had a mastery of Mikra, of all the verses in the Torah, of Mishnah, and of Talmud, or of Mishnah certainly, and all the Midrash. By 8, 10, 11, 12, before the bar mitzvah, they had a mastery of the Torah. However, that wasn't enough. They needed to have what's called shimush. They needed to be meshamish talmid chachamim. They needed to go and connect with a great Torah scholar and learn from him. It wasn't enough just to have. Nowadays, a person just has learn on their own and he knows all the Torah. That's unbelievable. You can imagine, right? In those days, no. That's just the beginning. Then from the age of 12, 13 until 20 years old, 18 years old, they went to a great sage and they learned the Talmud together. That's what Talmud really is. It's recordings of the back and forth of the students in the hallowed study halls. And they with the shimush, with literally means serving, but it means connecting with the sage and the scholar and the great rabbi. They grew tremendously. They were a very great level. So much so that the Talmud says a very fascinating line. The Gemara says that shimusho shel talmidei chachamim, being around Torah scholars, is greater than learning their Torah. Just being around them, because you can learn so much from being around them. And the Talmud says we learned that from Elijah and Elisha, Eliyahu Navi and Elisha, both prophets, great prophets. The Talmud says it doesn't say that Elisha, who was the closest student to Eliyahu, to Elijah, was his student that learned Torah. It was Elisha that served his master Eliyahu. So says the Talmud, very peculiar. You should focus on the Torah that he learned from him. No, rather we see that being around a Torah scholar is very important for us. So in those days, they started at a very young age. Now, you could imagine if at 40 years old, you don't know anything, you know very little. And in those days, by 12 years old, they had a mastery of the Mishnah and of the verses and of all the Midrashim. Can imagine that you're kind of behind the eight ball. The odds of you being a Torah scholar at all were most likely difficult, right? Certainly to be a Torah scholar of that is known, and certainly a great Torah scholar, and certainly the Gadol Hador, the greatest of the generation, we would say almost impossible. And in matter of fact, Rabbi Akiva's wife saw this tremendous potential in him, but Rabbi Akiva's wife, his father-in-law, did not. And his father-in-law, who was a great scholar in his own right, and he was extremely wealthy, and he used his wealth the way it's supposed to be used for great things, for charity and whatnot. When he saw that his daughter, who most likely could have married any great scholar of that generation, he was a tremendous philanthropist, and he was connected. When he saw that she wanted to marry him, he said, listen, you're making a terrible mistake, and I'm going to try to compel you not to marry him. And as a matter of fact, if you marry him, then financially I'm not going to be able to support you. I'm not going to be able to. You're going to be cut off because you're going against you're marrying an ignorant person, and it's against everything we believe in. And that's what happened. And at first they were extremely poor. And they had a mattress of straw. The Gemara says. They had a bed of straw to sit on, and Rabbi Akiva used to take out the straw from her hair in the morning. Can you imagine? She wakes up in the morning and she's full of hay, of straw. And Rabbi Akiva would lovingly take it out of her hair. And it was a difficult situation for them. And the Gemara says that Eliyahu Navi came and knocked and said, "Does anyone have any straw?" And they said, "See, we're not so bad. The guy knocking on the door, he doesn't even have straw. At least we have straw." And the Gemara says it was Elijah to make them, that they shouldn't feel so bad. But Rabbi Akiva starts off at the age of 40. He goes to Cheder, and there is a famous, I believe it's a Tanit of Eliyahu, if I'm not mistaken, that says Rabbi Akiva was affected by seeing near a stream of water. He saw these droplets of water by a waterfall. He saw these droplets that consistently were falling on a rock, and he saw the rock had a crack in it. And he said, if this little tiny droplets can make such an effect on a rock. So then the Torah can make an effect on me, even though I'm so far behind. That no, I could learn. And he was extremely motivated, and he started learning. And he left his wife for 12 years. Can you imagine? 12 years. He left his wife, and he comes home after 12 years, a very great scholar, and he's about to come in the door. And he overhears a conversation.
Hey, I'm sorry, 1 second.
And
yeah. How did they talk about the husband? I mean, the wife about that. She was trying to leave for a while, or I'm not sure that.
Yeah, she allowed him. It's hard for us to fully understand, but they had such a endearment for spirituality in those days, such a love for Torah, and it was such a high level that they were on, that his wife said, Rachel said to Rabbi Akiva, leave and go learn Torah. Go for it. It's going to be a long process. He said, I'm 40. And by 11, 12, you don't have this, forget it, right? Rachel said, no, go. And presumably they made up. 12, go learn for 12 years, however long it takes. And hold on 1 second, I'm sorry. Hold on. Anyway, I'm sorry about that. Anyway, so where were we? Yeah, so he went for 12 years. She had such a chashiva, such a importance for Torah, that she went for 12 years. He was about to walk in. The door, and he overhears a conversation with his wife, with a neighbor, and the neighbor said, she was talking to her neighbor, and her neighbor says to her, I can't believe your husband left you for 12 years with the kids on your own. What's going on? Right? We can imagine such a conversation, right? We can imagine it. And Rachel, she was on such a high level. She said, if he needed another 12 years, I would want him to stay 12 more years. So at that point, Rabbi Akiva turns around. He doesn't even go inside the house. And he learns for another 12 years. He comes back, and he has 24,000 students with him.
Mhm.
And he can imagine, he was the greatest scholar of the generation. And his wife, Rachel, is trying to, after so many years, she's trying to come to the front, and they're saying, who are you, whatever. And Rabbi Akiva hears about it, and he says, make way for her. He says very famously, because mine and yours is hers. All of my merit and all the merit of these 24,000 students is because of her. It's because of her. And that's the story of Rabbi Akiva. So Rabbi Akiva, right? And there's a famous Rabbi Shmuel Golshevsky asked the question, how come he didn't just go inside and say hello to her? And Rabbi Shmuel Golshevsky says famously that if you take a break, especially the intensity they had in those days, it's very hard for us to relate to, but we should, on our own level where we're holding, we should try to realize, and it should affect us to see the unbelievable levels that they were on. And on our level, we should try to aspire to where we are able to learn and grow, and we should push ourselves. And Rabbi Shmuel Golshevsky says that if you do 12 and 12, that's not the same. If you break from the middle, it's not going to have the same effect. Okay. Very interesting idea. I'm not saying we should practice this today. You should be home stay home, go home and be with your family, obviously, of course. But maybe it means that every now and then, go to a Torah class, go learn some Torah, and maybe you might miss some of the game. You might miss a little bit of you might miss the outing. Okay, you're doing it to connect to Hashem, and that's a tremendous force. If we only learn Torah when it's convenient, we only try to do mitzvos when it's on our time, on our turf, on our schedule, that doesn't have the same effect. We need to have a level of Mesiras Nefesh. We need to have a level of Mesiras Nefesh for it. Did I lose you, or I'm still here? You guys, okay?
Still here.
Yeah, you're still here.
Yes. So that's what happened. So now, what happened though was a tragedy from all this tremendous level of Rabbi Akiva and the heroism of him and his wife. Tragedy strikes, and between the days of Pesach to Shavuos, exactly how we count it, the two main opinions, whether it ended on Lag Baomer or Lag Baomer, it stopped momentarily and it began later and it went all the way to right before Shavuos, two different opinions, customs, but whatever it is, his 24,000 students passed away. There was a plague of Askara. Askara is some sort of, it's a terrible, it's a terrible disease and illness where a person really suffocates and they pass away, and that's what happened to his students. And the Gemara says, how come it happened? And nowadays we don't know why things happen. Hashem is talking to us in our own lives, no question about it. And in general terms, it's supposed to awaken our relationship with Hashem when things happen in our lives, but we don't know. But in the Gemara's time, they knew, and they said, "Shaloi nahagu kavod zeh b'zeh." The students did not, on their lofty level, they did not show respect to each other. They're ben adam, right? We know that the Torah is broken up. All the 613 are broken up into two categories, right? There's categories of positive commandments, and there are categories of losase, of what Hashem doesn't want us to do in this world. Things that He wants us to do, to be proactive, and things that He doesn't want us to do. And we spoke before that the proactive, the positive mitzvos correspond to the love of Hashem, and the losase, the negative commandments correspond to fearing Hashem. Hold on one second. I'm sorry. Hold on one second. Okay, I have to end in a few minutes, unfortunately, tonight early. I'm sorry. There's festivities that are Lag Baomer festivities. We'll talk about that hopefully, but we have a few more minutes left. Where was I? Anyone remind me? So his student. So we have the mitzvos aseh and los aseh, right? So within the category of the mitzvos aseh is treating your fellow person, right? Your fellow Jew, treating him with a love. You have to learn kamocha. Rabbi Akiva famously, Rabbi Akiva himself said, "Zekla gadol b'Torah." This is the great principle of the Torah. If you want to know what the Torah is about, a big portion of the Torah, it's treating another person with dignity, with respect, with the way you would want to be treated. That's how we're supposed to treat other people. To care for another person. When you go somewhere, it should be better than when you came. And the students on their levels did not have this. And so they all died. They died in a plague. And Rabbi Aaron Kotler has a famous essay on this. That why were they treated so harshly? We do know that the greater a person is, the more Hashem is exact with the person, and that's really for a person's benefit because then they have more reward and more of a closeness, and it's more of a genuine relationship. The more we're able to rise above. So they were on such a high level that any small thing. So they passed away. because their level of respect was lacking. And Rabbi Color says this in this essay. He says this idea that because they were the transmitters of the Torah, you have to remember that there's the written law and the Torah Shabbat Peh, the oral law, and the Torah Shabbat Peh, of course, later on was written down by Rabbi Yehuda Hanasi, Rabbi Yehuda, the leader of the Jewish people, so that the Torah shouldn't be forgotten. But in those days, it was the oral law was only given by transmission from Rebbe to students. So they represented for the Jewish people, the Jewish nation, the entire Jewish nation, the bearers of giving over the Torah to the next generation. So it says Rabbi Aaron Color, if there would be this flaw, this character flaw that they would have, it would dilute, it would affect the giving over these Torah sages. It would affect the entire Torah that they're giving over. It would be tainted. And they passed away. And they passed away in this time. Rabbi Akiva gets up with a few more students, Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, of course, one of them, and he starts over again. Not with thousands, 5 students, I believe, right? And he continues again. And those students transmit the Torah that we have today, and the Mishnah and the Talmud that we have to the main students for the next generation. And one of them is Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, right? So that's the idea. And according to some opinions, and right, Lag Baomer, the tonight, right? Lag Baomer is the day when the students stop dying. And the Chassam Sofer, of course, and many other rabbis asked the question, that why is that a cause for celebration? If they stop dying, I mean, there's no one left. It's not a cause for celebration. The idea, of course, is a very famous answer, is that the fact that Rabbi Akiva got up again and he didn't give up and he started over. He didn't say, I'm gonna close up shop. Hashem, God clearly does not want me to be the one to give it over. I had 24,000 students and they all died. I'm going to learn in a corner by myself. That's it. He did not give up. He started over. Maybe not with the numbers, but he started over. And that's the lesson for us, that person should never give up, no matter what. And Rabbi Akiva did not give up, and that's the celebration. Now, Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, it's famously, it is his yahrzeit. It is the day that he passed away. And on the day that he passed away, Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai wrote down the Zohar. He wrote down the mystical secrets of the Torah, and he gave it over. And that is what Lag Baomer celebrates. It celebrates the mystical aspects of the Torah. What is the mystical, the secrets of the Torah, the Kabbalah, or they're also called the Sifrei Emes. And it is the deeper, hidden meanings of the mitzvos. The mitzvos that we do, of course, Hashem told us to do them. But by and large, we don't necessarily seem to, why do I have to do it? Maybe this way, maybe that way. And we realize that we do it because Hashem is our creator. And that is the challenge of in this world. If every single time a person did something which Hashem didn't want, something negative happened to them, every single time a person did something positive they saw, so then the most wicked person in the world would be a tzaddik, would be righteous. It's because that there is this, right? It's not clear, right? But what is the Kabbalah teaches? The Kabbalah, the mystical side of the Torah, shows us the deep connections of everything we do and the tremendous importance of our actions and what we do. That's the idea of the Kabbalah. And that's what it opens up for us. It opens up for us that we're able to see the effects that the mitzvahs have on us, right? So that's the idea. That's what Lag Baomer is. That's the time period we're in right now. Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, very famously, was the one who believed of that, and he was the one that personified Torasai Umanaso, that to be involved as least as possible in worldly affairs. So Machlokes Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai and Rabbi Shmuel, right? And the Gemara and Brachos, and Rabbi Shmuel says a person needs to set aside time to learn every day, and they also have to go to work. You have to do both. Without both, then it's, if you're just living life without Torah, so then you're in this world not to eat and to work. You're in this world to connect to Hashem. So you need to have Torah in your life. But if you only have Torah, so it's going to be difficult. And ain kamach ain Torah. If you don't have flour, you don't have, which represents materialism, so it's going to be hard for you. So we need to have a balance of both. And that's the challenge of life. It's a big challenge that we have, the challenge of the balance of spirituality with also being involved in our needs. That's Rabbi Shmuel, and that's really how we come out with. But there is a minority opinion, and there is a minority of people that are on such a high, lofty level, which is called Toraso Manaso. Their Torah is their trade. They're learning of Torah. Rabbi Shmuel Golshevsky says, what? You're going to plant when you're supposed to plant, and then a few months later, you're going to have to harvest, and then you're going to have to prune before you harvest. You're going to be constantly involved in the field, and Rabbi Shmuel Golshevsky knows how, right, perhaps alluding to the human condition, you're going to get schlepped in. A lot of times we get schlepped into things, right? You get drawn into things, and before you know it, you're not learning anything. You're not involved in anything. Before you turn around, right? Says Rav Shimon, huh? You're going to do that. But Torah, what's going to be with your Torah study? What's going to be with it? Says Rav Shimon, no. Other people are going to help you. You learn Torah. You just learn Torah. And this very high level is what Rav Shimon represented. And he was in the cave, we know, of course, with his son for many years. He had to run away from the Romans. The Romans were chasing after him. He was in the cave. And Hashem provided them with a stream of water, with a carob tree for them to eat. They buried them. Their clothing got tattered and whatnot. And they got buried they buried themselves in the sand, and they learned Torah together. And Reb Shimon Golshevsky was on such a high level that the poet, there's a famous poem, Bar Yochai Nimshachta Achrecha, Shemen Tov Mechaverecha, and there's a line over there which we say, Bar Yochai, the son of Yochai, how fortunate your parents are to bring you in this world. Says the song or the poem, when Hashem said, let us make man, he meant you. He meant you, your level. He meant you are on such a high level that when Hashem created the world, he had you in mind. Now, of course, we know the famous Mishnah in Sanhedrin that every Jew is supposed to say, B'shvili nivra olam, the world was created for me. And we learn that the fact that first man, first woman, Adam and Chava were created singularly, even though Hashem created all the other animals and all the other creations, many instantly. But when it came to Adam and Chava, Hashem could have made all of China in 1 second, 1 billion people right away. Hashem did not do that. He did one human, right? Adam, one man, one woman. And the Mishnah says, and that's to teach us that we are, every person is an olam maleh, every person is a complete world. Every person, your actions have tremendous importance. And don't think that, well, I don't have to do it because this person's doing it, that person's doing it. No, you're you. Without you, the world is incomplete. Without you, you're like Adam. You're like first man. If first man wouldn't be here, then Hashem wouldn't have created the world. And every person has to look at it. And there's truth to that. The truth is, there is truth that the Ramchal writes, every person, how they bring out the kavod shemayim, the honor of heaven in this world by their challenges and their overcoming, brings out a tremendous light. I have to hold it over here. I wish everyone a happy Lag Baomer. We'll have to continue. We didn't get to do the Parsha, but we'll have to continue next time. Okay. Take care. Bye-bye.
Good job.
Right. Bye. I guess that's it. We're done?
It was close though.
Yeah. So we never got to, all right. All right. Okay. I see you guys next week. I'll speak to you.
All right, next week, guys.
Okay.
Okay. Let me know when it be close. Let me know anytime. Let me know anytime.
Anybody still there? I guess the meeting is over.